Welcome to Dementia Friendly Prince George's County, Maryland Northern Sector webinar series for caregivers. Today's topic is Out of Harm's Way, presented by Arleen Joell, sponsored by Prince George's County Government and the Department of Family Services.
My name is Arleen Joell, and you've kind of already heard about me and a little bit of why I love to talk about out of harm's way. And so that's what I'll be doing today. But before I start that, I want to tell you a little bit about who we are and kind of why we're here tonight and given the opportunity to talk to you about out of harm's way. Because Community Advocates is a victim services platform. And so we provide victim services, support services, counseling, as well as legal services to anyone who's been impacted or affected by crime, violence, or trauma in Prince George's County. We act as the county police victim service provider, as well as if you're in Prince George's County, you know that there's a lot of cities as well. And so we're the victim service provider for the city of Bowie, Laurel, Greenbelt, and most recently Hyattsville. We also work in collaboration with Child Protective Services when children become victims of crime. And most recently, we've partnered with Adult Protective Services as we continue to look into, our seniors and the challenges that we're beginning to have in terms of our safety in the community. So I'll talk a little bit about out of harm's way as it relates to elder abuse. Because the fact of the matter is that as seniors, we are growing faster than the baby strollers. And so the more they're projecting that people 60 and over, there'll be over 82 billion of us by 2050. So it becomes more important that we understand, why we're at risk, what we can do about it, and really be alert to our potential vulnerability. So that's what we're going to focus on today: the why, the what, and the how. The next slide shows you that as seniors, we are continuing to grow. 65 and over, and people are really living into their 80s. And so when you think about, why are we so vulnerable, there's a couple of reasons. And the next slide shows us that as seniors, we've had decent jobs. We've saved, and we've purchased homes, and we have our pension, and we have our Social Security. And so from that aspect, it makes us wealthy, and much more wealthier than the average younger person in our society today. And that sometimes makes us more vulnerable. Now, while we don't often think about us being wealthy, the fact of the matter is that that the fact of the matter is that we do possess those wealth characteristics, and that we're 6 times as much. We carry 6 times as much cash as the average 20-year-old, and that kind of puts us in a position to to be vulnerable to financial fraud, identity theft, scams, and those kind of things, which actually put us in harm's way. And there's a couple of reasons outside of the fact that we're wealthy individuals that adds to our risk or puts us in harm's way as well. And one of the reasons why we really looked at creating a community of seniors helping other seniors. Because the one thing that we are creatures of habit, right? We go to the store, the same day on, every week, which often creates an opportunity for repeat breaking and entering, right? Um, we trust this, we trust the people that are around us. And sometimes that puts us at risk because those people, whether they're helpers or family members, they have access and influence over what we do, how we manage our money. The other thing, I can't tell you how often I've done these webinars, and you say, well, you talk about reporting those incidents that happen to us, and more often than not, many seniors, are too embarrassed to report it, or they don't want to report it because it's a family member, or they don't want to report it because it's a caregiver, so it's who's going to take care of me. The embarrassment comes in, because back in the day I would have caught that before someone really had the opportunity to take advantage of us. And so oftentimes something will happen, something will not necessarily feel right or appropriate, and we may not get the criminal justice system involved for a variety of reasons. Because unfortunately, too often, it is someone that we trust, someone that that may have financial problems or substance abuse issues. I mean, think about it. All the time on the news, we often hear how often adult children are moving back in with their elderly parents, and sometimes that creates an opportunity for that person to take advantage of us, financially. The other thing is, looking at who's caring for us, right? Um, you know, we look at some of our numbers, and not only financial fraud, but domestic violence is increasing among seniors. Everyone's not a caregiver, and everyone doesn't always have the patience to care for another, sick, elderly, maybe frail person. So it's looking at, those situations and evaluating who's around us. I know when we work with the seniors through our peers available to help seniors, we often talk about not only naming, maybe your son, your daughter, but then looking also outside of that particular realm to see who else you may be able to trust that could intervene if things do go awry. And so a lot of times, if you think about it, that creates the reason of, kind of, why us. We have the kind of understand, the why. We're getting older, we need assistance. There's so many trainings and webinars on aging well where you dwell. We're situating the house that we raised our children up in such a way that we can stay there longer. And sometimes we will need help, staying aging well where we dwell. This is just a sample of a few of them. So, physical abuse. And so when you think about that, you think about, the hitting, the slapping, the pushing, that kind of thing. But emotional abuse is just as, paralyzing, because if you think about, as an elderly person, being, fussed at, or or talked down to, or intimidated, because of confrontations. All of those things create an environment for us where we may withdraw, where we may, not communicate, where we may not socialize, where we may no longer maintain those relationships because now we're kind of, living in fear. Sexual abuse, when you think about situations where seniors may have, you know, rented a room, right? We've had that situation, where you're trying to supplement your income, you rent a room to somebody, and they take advantage of you that way. Also, the whole challenge or concern of nursing homes and and seniors not having a voice when they're there. Um, the other one is exploitation, and that could be financial. And when we talk about identity theft, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in a moment. But also, if you're in a situation where there's neglect, I'm not getting my medication. Maybe the person that's taking care of me is using the funds for my medication for something else. And so I'm not really being taken care of. Or situations we've seen where, um, you know, the children or other relatives move into the home with the seniors, and they're kind of taking care of themselves, taking advantage of that senior, and really not taking care of the owner. Abandonment, we talk so much now about social isolation and the fact that we have to stay connected in order to be healthy. And when you think of abandonment, where families are so spread out, your son or daughter or niece, stepchild or whatever, now may live in North Carolina and you live here. And so how often are you connected with someone? But the other thing is just not being in contact with your family members or your support systems, or even having those connections outside of your home to keep you engaged with others. And so all of those have an impact on not only our safety, but our mental and physical health. If we're isolated and we're no longer interacting, with our church, with our neighbors, with, our family members, um, that often can create um, an opportunity for us to even neglect ourselves, like, oh, I'm not going to get up, today and get dressed, or I'm not going to bother with fixing anything to eat, or I'm not going to go out to get get the mail or whatever. And that creates a situation where, we may begin to willfully deprive ourselves of being healthy. Um, and so all too often, that puts us in harm's way as well. And then, like I said, the financial um, exploitation, which we'll talk a little bit about. And so, from our perspective, what we have seen an increase in is, I mentioned, domestic violence, neglect, financial fraud, and identity theft. Financial fraud, as it relates to the many scams that are out there and plaguing our seniors, and we'll talk a little bit about some of them. But also the identity theft. If we get so much junk mail and all of our information is on there, and it's a matter of, what do you do with that junk mail? Do you just toss it? Do you shred it? How easy is it for someone to gather up your information? we reached out to a senior just this week, because it was a repeat breaking and entering. And she was, glad to get the help, and she needed her locks changed because someone had broken into her house, and she gave us all the information and we made arrangements. But then after she hung up, she realized like it was a good thing that somebody was calling to help her, but was it legitimate? Or was that somebody just gathering all her information? And so certainly was a good thing that she called back just to validate. Because, when people call you now, oftentimes they're, the number similar to your number, or it's similar to a number that you often call. It's similar to, your child's number. So you're more likely to answer or, think it's somebody that you know. The other thing is, think about, when when we were raised to, if somebody calls you, answer the phone. If somebody's talking to you, be polite. And so really all of those old teachings actually kind of put us in harm's way. And so everyone, uh, that either lives by themselves or has limited access to external support, is sometimes more vulnerable than they would like to be. I know for me, like I do have kind of a problem, with my hip. And so, when I'm walking and I'm outside, I'm always thinking like, okay, am I vulnerable? Because, like I might hesitate or something like that. But it really is important for us to recognize our surroundings and really know, what puts me at risk when I'm out and about. And at the same time, making sure you are out and about, because social isolation can also create negative health challenges, mental challenges, as well as physical. But if we take a look at, again, what we see is happening with our seniors in these three areas, the next slide kind of shows you the number of incidents that we've actually, that have been referred to us. But then when you take a look at the number that's in red, it's the seniors who have actually engaged in services, that said, yeah, let me reach out for help. Let me see if I can actively participate in this, to hold the person accountable. And it's unfortunate that sometimes when it's our own family members who are taking advantage of us, of course, we don't want to get them in trouble. We don't want to hold them accountable. We don't want to, get a protective order or get them evicted from our homes because they're mistreating us. And that is understandable. And then even in situations where you have caregivers, you are concerned, well, who's going to take care of me if I, if I do try to hold the person accountable. But you can see that not engaging in holding a person accountable not only continues to increase the numbers in terms of opportunity for people to take advantage of us, but it continues to leave us in harm's way. And that's what we want to encourage people to do, to to report it and to share with your neighbor, your friend, what happened to you, because if it happened to me and I don't tell anyone, well, that person's emboldened to go then and try to do it, with my neighbor or my friend. And it's only through us telling the story that we can potentially prevent it from happening to someone else. This just takes us back to the physical and sexual, and I think I mentioned about the intimidation, the guilt, the blame, you've been, maybe taking care of your adult children who maybe struggle with employment or whatever, and too often the feeling is that, well, I have to take care of them because they're my children. Um, but you also have to consider your safety and your health. So as neighbors, we often have to look out for one another. So these are some of the common scams or schemes that are currently out there. Perhaps some of you have heard about them, um, or you might be familiar. Maybe some of you have gotten that letter, in your email or in the mail that says, if you send us $200, no, it's if you do this money from, a long time inheritance, but you would need to send $250 to get the check released to you. Maybe some of you have seen that. Or the most recent is that grandma scheme where the person, calls you, the voice is muffled, you kind of think it's your, granddaughter Harper, but you can't really tell. But she's saying she's in trouble and now she doesn't have any money. She went on vacation and she's asking you to, send money. And there's been many seniors who have fallen prey to that, only to find out that it really wasn't really the granddaughter. Um, the taking out credit cards, in your name, because you know how you get those credit cards, in the mail or enough information for you to apply for a credit card. And that's all that someone may need to try to create some credit in your name. I know on TV they often talk about, the property ownership of, people, stealing stealing your title. And so being able to have that additional, um, not necessarily, well, protection, by somebody handling or helping you check your credit report, or check your title, is often very helpful. Questions or comments? So it's important that when you get information that has your name on it, that you shred. And I know I'm guilty of it because it's only been probably the last year or two that I've been deliberate to shred things that have my name on it. Other than that, I'm like, oh, I'll just throw it in the trash. Like you have that, that trash can that's right in your kitchen or in your laundry room, and you just throw all that junk in there. Well, the thing is, people spend time going through people's trash to find information about them. And particularly when you think of, as we age, we're not out and about and we're not going in and out of our house where, we may catch someone going through our trash. The other thing is, many of us are living in senior living places, over 55 places, and your trash is just, in a chute. And so making sure that you're shredding that, because you really don't know who empties that or where that trash goes. And so these are just some other things in terms of, getting scammed to, do the power of attorney. Where you may be, there's a lot of information out there about, turning your property over in a trust to your children. And that's all good, because taxes, probate, and all of that, and you want your children to, be taken care of. but make sure that you still have the right to change that power of attorney anytime, and that you really have someone there that's looking out for your interest as well. And that's really the important thing on that slide. Okay, so overall, I guess the thing is that there's so many scams out there, but it's important that we protect one another. If you notice something's different in your neighbor, your best friend, the person that you sit next to in church, ask about it, inquire about it, because they may just be waiting for someone um, to help them. If you notice that, the person's like, talking about like, yeah, I haven't been taking my medication, ask, why, right? Or if they're, not in dressing or, in the same condition as they normally would, find out about it, because the only way that someone may come forward is if they feel that someone's concerned about them, because some people are actually in that situation and feel that they don't, even know how they would even get out of it. So the thing is, just remembering that, I know they say like Social Security, the IRS, they will never call you on the phone. And so, just making it a habit, although that's not how we were raised, but making it a habit not to, engage in conversation on the phone with people that you don't know. And sometimes people realize that, okay, I live by myself. I get a phone call, Joe sounds very nice and friendly. We started talking, and then before you know it, like I've, given up some information, like, I don't have anybody but me. Oh, all my children are in Idaho or whatever. And then that kind of opens the door for Joe to come by to say, I can help you with your lawn or whatever. And then next thing you know, you're kind of caught up in in either a financial, scam or something like that. Um, I think that, if you do watch movies, and if you've never seen The Beekeeper, it is such a good example of how just talking on the phone or, reaching out for support through some unknown to some unknown vendor can really get impact you. And in that particular situation, if you haven't seen the movie, the thing is, her computer got an error, a phone number popped up, said, oh, we can help you. She called it, she started giving information, and they actually literally stole all her money. And it was, a big a scam that, they were running. So the thing is really, to protect yourself and protect your assets. And again, I encourage you, that if something does go awry, well, breaking and enterings are usually reported, financial, thefts. But if anything goes awry, to still call the police and let them know. There could be, 10 people on your street who are experiencing the same thing. And the thing is, since we're all not connected, you may never know, but just letting them be able to get more information, to hold the person, accountable, is really important. And like I said, to pass it on to everyone that because once someone gets over on me, they're like, oh, okay, that worked. Then they'll go to the next senior. So, whether you're a caregiver, a friend, a child of a senior, when someone does mention something's not quite right, really take it seriously and and either report it or listen to them, validate it, and and check it out. And I so believe that if we can just continue to tell one another how we've um, been taken advantage of, then that really will help hold more people accountable. Because maybe I don't want to get involved, right? But if I tell, my neighbor Sherry, she may be the one, yeah, I do want to get involved. I want to hold this person accountable. And it might be through her strength, I can move forward to hold that person accountable as well. So these are some resources within the county that you can always call for additional information. We have a 24-hour helpline, so we're there as well. We also have this program. It's Soy Street, and Seniors on Your Street. And so what we do is, well, what we're doing is recruiting seniors in different neighborhoods to volunteer. And then it's like a free HOA, right? But it's connecting seniors so that if you haven't seen me in a couple of weeks, then you have my permission to come over and knock on my door to see how I'm doing or if there's anything that I need. And so if anyone's looking to volunteer, there's the email and the number there. And then these are two other programs. One is our peer assistant, and what that is kind of seniors helping seniors, more mobile seniors helping less mobile seniors. Whether it's I'm going to the grocery store, with you, we're going together, or you're just breaking up my habit of going to the Giant every Tuesday at 10. Sometimes that really does deter someone from trying to take advantage of you. And the last one is if you enjoy walking and you have a pet or a dog, or even if you don't, you can join us for our walk against victimization in April.